no antidote. There is 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 no antidote.
Hi there, folks. Davey, if you want to come on, I'm in LA and things have been a bit wild, but I made it. And I tried to get Davey up on the rooftop, but unfortunately we could not find a quiet enough place to hold Peculiar Book Club at all, not at all. So anyway, we're back.
We made it.
And
we
that's
made it.
okay,
It's okay.
because we made it. We made it. I'm also wearing an inordinate amount of makeup. So I'm in LA because I was filming and I have fake eyelashes on. Can you guys see it? It's so weird. Can you see it?
I did notice on the picture you sent out.
So this is not my usual face, but
oh boy, we're on a bit of a delay situation here. Okay, this will be interesting.
You froze.
Yep. So I think our audio is delayed. We'll work it out. Let's dive in and we'll work it out.
Okay, we'll dive in and we'll work it out. Well, I see a couple new. Sadie is with us. We're so glad to see Sadie back. She said the intro is so good because it's the first she's seen of it. We've got Sharon is here and Lorelai. Laura Lee, I discovered. It's Laura Lee, isn't it? And we've been pronouncing it wrong all this time. So exciting to have... You're on an I-40. Sadie is from the passenger seat on I-40 on the way to our campsite. Oh my, in New Mexico. Wow. I'm on your side of the world right now, Sadie. Sharon meant to say hi, not H, but we understood. Anyway, I'm really excited to be here. I know you're excited.
Mm-hmm.
We're excited because we're going to go mountain climbing today. Kind of. So without further ado, let us welcome Mimi Zieman, who I also was mispronouncing. It's the thing I do.
Hi, Mimi. Welcome to
We're really excited to have you. Yeah,
Thanks.
right? It's an ink explosion.
Yeah, thrilled to be here and embrace the weird.
Yes, please. Embracing the weird is very good. Yes, well, if you're weird, you're family here. So weird is a totally good word for this. We have Elizabeth Witten as well. And Sharon Roney is 7 days out from retirement, she says. We also have Karen is saying hello and looking good, Mimi. Karen is perhaps someone you know there. All right, yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, hi, Karen.
Sharon Roney is in envy of your bookcase, as am I. Can you walk us through what's behind you there?
Well, it's funny. We just redid it this year and painted it blue. But books and different things we've collected. A lot of menorahs. And, yeah.
I love it. It has the look of almost like an apothecary case. Like the way, right? In the old soda shops and fountains. It's awesome. Oh,
well, my husband's family did have a lot of pharmacists. So
there you go.
You even got the accent lighting. The accent lighting in there makes it really nice.
It is. Noah Allen says, best mom ever.
That's my daughter.
Literally the entire, if those of you who are listening to us on the audio podcast can't see that the entire side comments are now pretty much about this bookcase.
I can't see it either.
There's a lot of love. The lighting is fantastic. What an amazing bookcase. Yeah, it is pretty awesome.
Maybe one year also, for our end of the year show, we'll do like our power rankings of best bookshelves of all our peculiar guests from seasons 1 through 6.
That's right. Well, didn't they used to do like a virtual office ranking system? I feel like during COVID there was some kind of like you could room rater. Do you remember that? That feels like a long time ago, but I don't think it really was.
Yeah, they totally did that.
Well, your room would rate very highly. Let's take a moment because for if you're joining us right now for either the live show or the podcast, the fun thing about the live show is we get to ask Mimi direct questions, which is very exciting. And one of the other very interesting things about this book is that it's kind of memoir-esque as well. Like it is, you're telling us a lot of information, right? There's science, there's medicine. And we had a book earlier this year called the Killer Whale Journals, which oddly, there's some interesting handshaking between these two texts, because you said yes to a journey that I think most of us would be quite terrified about to go on. So normally the first softball question that I ask before we dive into announcements and everyone else's questions is how did you come to your topic? But I feel like that's a weird question. In this particular book, I'm going to ask it anyway. Maybe you can share a little bit for those who haven't read the book yet.
Well, you're hitting on part of the why, which is that, well, first of all, it's kind of an untold type of mountaineering story, and we can get to that because it features a woman doctor. There hasn't been a woman doctor in Everest book. It's not about just the climbers going up and down. But also the other point you made, I was hoping that readers would see themselves in my story and maybe think about taking on challenges where they might think they wouldn't have been the best candidate, unlikely challenges. Because I always say, I took on this role to serve as team doctor when I was a medical student. I was 25 years old. And so I always say my Everest was serving in that role, not the typical Everest climbing up and down the mountain. And, you know, we all have those kind of challenges, and we often feel like we're not ready, we're not qualified, we're not good enough. So I was hoping that reading my story would sort of make people think about choices in their lives and things that they want to do, and, you know, maybe take on more of those challenges.
This is such exciting work, and you got another little bit of love down here from Rebecca Thompson, who says, "Hi, Mimi, thanks for posting about this on your Facebook page. Happy to discover this podcast." Rebecca, we're all super glad you're here too. Peculiars will welcome you with our traditional ardor group. This is partly what I love about this book, because I think, frankly, I've been up very few mountains in my life, none of them anything like Everest. And the closest I got was when I was in the Alps, and I had a gondola take me up there. Like I was, I like posed up there, but I didn't actually have to get there on my own steam. But when I have done any kind of, it's extremely physically arduous, even to get up small mountains, right, in New York State or something like that. And part of my brain just wants to stop working when I read about this. I'm like, no, you don't mean that Everest. But you do. And we use the word Everest. We say, this is my Everest. People use that as a metaphor, but your Everest was Everest. And I just think that if you can conquer that, you can conquer anything, right? So it's really powerful and amazing. And I guess my next question is, what made you you performed, you did this, and then you wrote about it quite a long time afterwards. And I wonder, what was the catalyst for that?
The catalyst was just that I quit a job on one day, and the next day went to my desk and started writing. So I didn't plan it necessarily, but I even back when I returned from Everest, I had wanted to write my story, because we ended up having a very extreme adventure, and I did want to share that tale. Now, later in life, I was sort of able to ask, how did that girl who grew up in New York City, the daughter of refugees, end up in Tibet at 25, taking care of this all-male team? So I sort of had some questions I'd been thinking about a lot. Why do some people take risks and other people like to stay closer to home, closer to their comfort zones? So when you get old enough, you get to reflect back and think about the bigger meaning of things. when I was younger, I just wanted to say, oh my God, we had this incredible tale. This was the first team to climb the East Face without oxygen. East Face was only climbed once before our team. We had no Sherpas, no porter support, no chance for rescue. So it was this extreme adventure. But at this age, I was more interested in like the life story. And that's why it became more of a coming of age memoir. And although I'd never planned to write about my family any time in my life, there they were kind of making it onto the page. And I had to kind of figure that stuff out. Like, how much does our family influence our journeys and that whole side of it?
Yeah, well, and I think, so it's a very woven tale. And, part of me is still curious, even though after reading it, but part of me is still curious, like what drives someone to take those kinds of risks? I've taken risks, but they're of a different sort. Like I jumped, from a well-paying job into graduate school, and then I jumped from a tenure track job into whatever it is I do now, right? I've certainly made those kinds of leaps in career and things like that, but this was basically you were taking your life in your hands, or more specifically, you were also a guardian of other people's lives at the same time. And I mean, I'm meeting you now, but I mean, you must have been a force to be reckoned with at 25.
I mean, I didn't see myself that way. And you probably get that sense from reading the book. I mean, that was the other thing, is that I'm very honest about all my self-doubts in the book. And I think that's important because we all had them. I didn't feel like this brave force, I'm going to do it and I can do everything. What drew me was I wanted to be in the mountains for as long as possible. I guess it's a spiritual feeling, but just happy feeling, feeling like that's my place. And I had already been trekking in Nepal, which is how I met the climbers. And so here was an opportunity to go back. Like I had spent months trekking in Nepal when I was 22. And here I get this invitation to go back. Oh, you can spend another few months there. And that came while I'm in medical school in the Bronx, which is not the feeling of wilderness, freedom, expansion, So it was just irresistible,
Yeah.
So
if you haven't read the Killer Whale Journals, there's some similar kinds of things that happened there, where she talks about just being really pulled to go on this boat. She goes as a cook, and she doesn't know how to cook, so she just kind of jumps in. But it's a very similar kind of thing in a way. Sharon Roney asks a question here, and then we'll probably get to our announcements after that. But she says, I haven't yet read the book, but did you have a medical specialty that fitted you to mountaineering? Like, were you, I don't know if there's like mountain doctors as a as a side quest.
Well, now there is. This was in 1988. So there were some people who have served in high altitude or been on expeditions. That wasn't me. I was just in my third year of medical school, so just a student learning everything. But I consulted those experts, and in particular, a guy that I met in Nepal who was working at a high altitude clinic. And when I contacted him, he was about to go on his own expedition. So he shared all of his preparation with me. And then I just went to the library and studied a lot and researched, but I wasn't specialized in any way.
That's amazing. So it's an amazing story. And I want there's a little bit of a lag for the peculiars when they type questions. It takes a little while for them to get into the chat. So we'll go to announcements. You guys go ahead and fill up the chat with questions. One of the questions that I think we can all sort of address is that spirit of adventure is, I think, rather common among our subset of people. Like, I think it's very, we have a lot of people in our group who, by virtue of being peculiars and feeling like we're on the fringes of things, do take a lot of risks. So you peculiars out there, think about how that factors into your own lives while we go through our announcements, and then we will come back. So, first of all, guess what? We have a brand new website. So always before on our show, to get to our website, you had to go through my website first. Now we have our own. It's peculiarbookclub.com. And I have set it up in such a way that like everything is super easy to find, which is completely not the case until like today. So I'm very excited about that. You guys can check us out. And you can see us on all different social medias. Our Discord server is starting to grow a little bit too. And so we're out there. Our Facebook group is where a lot of our chatter sort of happens. And of course, the YouTube page is there for you to watch to see upcoming shows and to watch the shows that have immediately passed. But onward to, if you are a Goodreads person or a bookclub.com person, we're on both, and it's really nice. It's nice to have the Goodreads because in addition to having information about the books that we're reading, we often put the little book promo. So you saw the lovely book promo we did for Mimi's book, and so it's up there. The podcast is fun because you aren't just getting this show. You are getting this show. You are also now a podcast Mimi. It's like we're just turning into all sorts of media. But we also have a Peculiar at the Movies, which is something that Davey does, Peculiar Movie Club, and I do Peculiar Mystery Club, which is mystery books. It's great fun. You can join us on our Facebook groups, or you can support us on Patreon. Oh, next, Davey, I forgot to next you. Sorry. You can sign up for our newsletter, join Patreon, but honestly, the most cool thing is the drink. So, yes. The winning, so we vote on these on Facebook, and the winning title was Blue Suede Tap Shoes. And Kat is our drinks maven. Kat created this gorgeous cocktail, and she does the photographs. Is that not beautiful? Like, it looks like snow. It's a lemon sour mix and blue Croco. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but it looks lovely, and it apparently tastes very good as well. I'm not at home, so I couldn't make it, but it's a thing of beauty, and it is all for you, Mimi. This is your book cocktail.
Don't laugh. It's a highlight of my life to have a book cocktail, which I thought was called a booktail.
Nice.
Oh, and yes, a booktail.
And I did make it, but mine kind of sunk while we were sitting here, and I haven't tasted it yet. So cheers.
Cheers.
I've never had a live
excellent.
taste test before. This is.
What do you think?
Oh,
do you like it? Is it good?
I love the name.
All right, so I think we have the Peculiar Movie Club.
Like Brandy,
Take it away, Dave.
like Brandy mentioned, we do the Peculiar Movie Club. So, in honor of your book, this is the first documentary we're ever going to do, and I'm curious if you saw it, if you're aware of it. The documentary is called Sherpa. I believe it came out in 2015 or 2016. I haven't watched it yet. I might settle in this weekend and watch it. But that'll be our May episode. We're going to do the documentary Sherpa and kind of learn about some of the things that have been happening on the mountain over the last few years and some of the politics involved with the mountain. And I mean, you get into a lot of that in your book, actually, with the porters and everything and the negotiations that went on.
Yeah, it was a different era, you know?
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're more evolved now. But, you know, ongoing tension always between travelers and locals, you know?
Right.
And especially now, you know, the mountain is very spiritual to Nepalese and Tibetans. The mountain is on the border between Nepal and Tibet, so it can be climbed from either side. And, you know, some of what's going on is not exactly spiritual.
Yes. All right. Well, so I don't know exactly when it's going to release, but that will be our May Peculiar Movie of the month.
All right. I love it. And, you know, we one of the fun things about the Peculiar Movie Club is that while it's thematic, it's not exact, but it really kind of pulls in themes. He did Free Willy for the whale book. We have a lot of fun with these, and they're quite good. And he does it with a partner, and they riff, and it's kind of amazing. Like they get deep in.
So last month we did the sci-fi classic, The Fly, and then the month before that was Free Willy. Which do you think has more listens, right? The silly childhood movie from the 90s or this classic sci-fi movie, right? Of course, it's the silly childhood movie from the 90s. Of course, Free Willy is like one of our most listened to movies so far.
Silly childhood movie.
Yeah, I'm glad I picked that one.
It's such a great name.
Yeah.
So much so, yeah. I want to ask you about the porters, but at first I'm gonna dive in here and get to some of the things that the peculiars are saying. But then I want to get back to that because you guys chose not to use porters, and I thought that was interesting. Cynthia Flex says, "Greetings, everyone. First timer here, thanks to Mimi's newsletter. She was a guest at our book club in Atlanta. Amazing book, and she's happy to be here with us all. Technically not a question, but we love welcoming new people. So, and also I think Sadie is also in Atlanta. So, you know, we might see perhaps get a little pod together over there. All right, sorry. Sharon Roney says, would you go back and try another ascent of Everest or some other peak today?
I would go back to hike and to trek. That was always my goal. I was never, people always say, well, did you make it to the top? And I have to explain, I was not there as a climber. I did extensive hiking and trekking. And in fact, our team is talking about maybe going back in 2 years together to the East Face trekking, just trekking to the bottom of the East Face. That will be a very big deal for me at this age with my knees. But I'm going to do it if I can. Yeah, I'm going to try to do it. So I just love being in the mountains. And, you know, yes, awesome. I will hike and climb.
So my question to you.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. There's some kind of lag happening. David, is it happening on just my end? Is it just me?
Yeah, Brandy, it's you. I'm going to recommend actually that maybe you sign out and sign back in.
And sign back in?
See if we can't, we'll see if we can tighten up this lag a little bit. We appreciate everybody kind of being patient with us. You know, when Brandy's on the road, it gets a little difficult. Well, that's amazing that that you would all get back together for that.
We've gotten together before, but we've talked about going back to the East Face and never have. Stephen's the only one who's been back there. We have gotten together, not often. The last time was the 25th reunion in the UK. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're excited about it.
Well, yeah, that'd be wonderful. The peculiars are with you. Laura Lee says, knees can be the worst. And Sharon says, I have one new knee. It's a whole thing.
Yep.
You got to keep going, though, right? You got to keep pushing.
You got to keep moving and pushing. Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I believe 100%.
So, I mean, you didn't climb to the top. And so obviously, like when you read the book, you know, okay, when you read what they went through to get to the top, from just getting from advanced base camp to the top, like obviously, like there's a reason only I'll say a handful of people, I know it's thousands of people, but you know, a global population, a handful of people have ever made it to the top. So, I mean, just the experience you needed to climb to advanced base camp. I mean, you talked about some of the treacherous things you endured and went through. What was that like preparing for that?
Well, just to add to that, I mentioned there's several routes, Nepal, Tibet. The East Face, to this day, only about 15 people have made the top from the East Face, compared to over about 11,000 from the popular routes, like the ones you see on the news with the long lines. Again, you know, I was gone for 4 months in 1988. I'm sure you guys must have heard this week. There's a team from the UK who's racing up Everest. Their goal was to leave London, climb Everest, and be back in 7 days.
And back in time for tea, right? Of course.
Right.
The UK, I'm sure they wanted to be back in time for tea.
Yeah, exactly. They did make the summit. I don't know where they are on their return yet. To me, that misses the point. I was saying I was going there just to be in the mountains, you know, and they're going to get to the top and set a speed record. And, you know, of course, you know, admire athletes who want to do great things. But yeah, so for us in that era and in that time, there were a lot of obstacles even to get to the base camp. And they were just purists, so they didn't want to use Sherpas and they didn't want to use oxygen. And they called their route. They were trying to do a new route up this face that had only been climbed once before. They called it the Neverest route because they never got a rest.
That is awesome. I am back, but I've realized that the trade-off for being here in my room instead of up where it is noisy is that the signal is much worse. So I may drop in and out, for which I apologize profusely. But my one of the questions that I have is about the porters and about their choice, as why that counts as being purist. I agree, actually, but I thought maybe we could talk about that a bit more. Davey, I can no longer see the comments as a result. I had to shut some things down so that I could keep signal.
I'm on it, and you do seem better synced now, so
okay,
I think we're good.
Why they didn't want to use porters? It's just that, so they were climbing lightweight style. It has a lot of terms, but lightweight style, alpine style, where you can have a smaller group of climbers do something quicker. When you have the porters, like again, on that popular route that you see, it takes a long time for them. Actually, the Sherpas do most of the work laying down the ropes for the people to then go up. They carry the supplies to the different camps. And it's just a different philosophy, whether you want to do that, to say you climbed Everest, or whether you want to climb it on your own,
Part of the politics is a lot of people feel, that they're just, that it's a use and abuse of the Sherpa, but at the same time, I know it's also a financially beneficial relationship for the Sherpas who don't always have a lot of other resources. So I was just wondering if you wanted to talk a tiny bit more about that, because I think that's fascinating.
Well, it's true. That's how they're making their living, and the region changed so much as a result. So, the mountain was first climbed in 1953 by Hillary and Norgay. And Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay devoted a lot to helping the region afterwards. Hillary in particular built hospitals and schools. And, by a lot of climbers and trekkers coming, a lot of money was infused into the area. A lot. That's relative to say a lot. But so now I think there is a dependence on that. And there's always a question of what the Nepal government is going to do to limit how many teams are there, how much garbage is there, how much destruction there is. And they've always been a little behind doing that, I think. So you're right. It's complicated and there's a lot of politics involved.
It's amazing. I think you said this in the book. One of the tents they stowed away in was a leftover tent, basically, from another team. And there was garbage in the tent from that team left behind. Like, everywhere humans go, we can't help but make a mess.
Yeah, that's right. The climbers coming down from the summit had no tent and found an abandoned tent that they could get shelter in.
Yeah. I do have to ask, so in the book you describe these blue barrels that the porters were carrying and that you had to carry, I'm sure, at times. Are we talking, like, in my head, I'm just picturing giant rain barrels. I needed a size for the barrels.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. About this high.
Okay.
And maybe around this round. So
we are talking like a big blue, like, rain barrel. Yeah.
Big. Yeah. I never carried a barrel. I carried my backpack. But the heavy loads, the barrels and the duffels, we did hire local people. Well, we were supposed to have yaks.
Right.
Okay. In honor of the peculiar, I'm going to show you a gift I got at a book club in LA. Someone gave me a stuffed yak as a present. And not only that, this was Debbie Greenwood. She also cooked yak burgers for the crowd, which I did not eat because I rarely eat meat. But I love this little baby yak.
Oh, that's right. But the yaks are almost more dangerous to you than that mountain was.
That's true. The yaks quit. There was too much snow for the yaks on our team. And that's why we were delayed for several weeks in the deep snow. And eventually locals came and each of them carried a load for us just to get to base camp. So they didn't stay climbing on the mountain, but just to get to base camp.
Yeah.
Wow. I love the fact that the yaks quit, though. They're just like, the yaks were just done.
Karen says that's so cute.
It's so cute.
She also said earlier, I would love to hear about that reunion. She asked if you'll write about it, Mimi.
Karen's my friend who's excellent at writing essays. So she immediately saw an essay in that. I don't know, Karen.
Okay, if I could transition to another topic. So there's probably a lot of feelings and emotions that would go into reunion because you wrote a lot about relationships in the book and personal relationships and the connections you made, even when you were hiking earlier, the connections you made, and then obviously the connections you made with the team. So what made you want to put so much of that personal story out there? And you really reveal a lot about what you were going through emotionally through all that.
Yeah, because I did spend a lot of time studying memoir writing. And I think that that's what's expected of a good memoir, is to be very real and as deep as you can with the meaning and the emotion and the relationships and the feelings. So I did have to spend time digging deep. And I think, again, that's what makes this a different kind of Everest book. It's really more about this young girl coming of age and the relationships that she has. But to this day, like when we were on the 25th reunion, so that was 12 years ago, and we were sitting around a table, it's like, one of those experiences where time hasn't passed. But I think we bonded because of all the trauma that we went through and how isolated we were. And that's also why I wanted to write about it, because I was sort of in the background to the right. And yet I went through so much. So that's the story I wanted to tell. There are people in the background in life, in a lot of circumstances, who are going through a lot and have stories that are not necessarily the ones highlighted.
I did find sorry, Randy, I found an article that was from Robert that was, I told you on Medium, that was explaining the actual ascent. And so it was after he had, after the team had kind of left you and they had moved up the mountain. And as he's getting back down the mountain, I'm like sitting there, like saying, like, mention Mimi, come on. And he mentions Joe, the photographer. And I'm like, mention Mimi. And then he does, like, there's a paragraph where he's like, and Mimi took such good care of us. She looked after us for weeks. And I was like, yay! I felt so connected to your story after listening to your book.
Yeah. Well, and I love your idea about the background people, because I think we hear this a lot, particularly from women, right? And I had Alison Tyra on my show, on the podcast a couple weeks ago, called Uncredited, where it's a whole book that she wrote just about women who are not credited with, their discoveries and other things are taken by other people and they're forgotten. And I think, it happens a whole lot more to women and people of color than it does to, your average white man. So it's the background stories are what make the other stories happen. And so it's so important to get those in there.
Exactly. Yeah. That was a big motivation.
Did you have any other, were there other people in the background with you that you felt like your story couldn't be told without them?
Sure. I mean, we did have a cook from Nepal, Pasang, who was in base camp. And we hired a local guy, Kasang. He was on our team. And Joe, we everybody, what was amazing is everyone was a good teammate and pitched in when they were needed, and especially at the end when we had injuries and trauma. And that really touched me, because it was my job to take care of them, right? So of course I'm going to do it, but to see the way everyone else took care of each other was really moving.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I know we don't try not to spoil the ends of books too much here on the Peculiar Book Club. Some have listened to it, some have read it, some haven't. When you look back now on the medical things and some of the things that happened and some of the decisions that you had to make, how do you reflect on them now, going back on them?
Yeah. I mean, I did the best that I could. And, you could say that I was lucky in some ways and unlucky in other ways. I think that the whole point is that everything was uncertain. Like our entire trip we didn't know what would happen the next day. We didn't know if we could get to base camp, which is what I love about it, because it's a real throwback adventure. It's not like that nowadays. But I feel like because of that, the story is a metaphor for life today. We don't know what's going to happen later or tomorrow, really, either. We like to think we do. But I think that that's a big part of the story. And in medicine, that's often the case too. We don't know everything. We're doing our best. We're always, doing the best that we can for a person as we try to figure things out, as we do our best, as we stretch ourselves. I have some empathy for that 25-year-old medical student who had took that on. But I'm very clear that I made all those choices, just like the climbers made the choice to be there. And we were ready for anything. We knew anything could happen, and emotionally we knew. And so that was what we chose.
It's I know, I'm like Davey said, we try not to tell people too much about the end of the book. You guys have to go get it. And we do have your book available for sale on our bookshop too. We have a through bookshop.org, so to support indie books. I just realized, Davey, we've already been to the halfway point. We've got a charming disaster song. So Mimi, I'm going to mess this up forever. Sorry. We like to have songs as part of our show, and usually there's some general kind of tie-in. So I'll be very interested to see what Charming Disaster does for us today. But welcome to the midpoint.
I have to say, I got to give a warning before I play this. There's a new member of Charming Disaster. See if you can spot it.
Oh boy.
There's something new, and I just want to prepare all the peculiars for it.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Oh, hello, peculiars.
It's us, Charming Disaster.
And we have a new song for you tonight from our new album, The Double. This one goes out to all of us who are fumbling through the darkness. Here is Beautiful Night.
We don't need help to welcome the dark. The darkness knows right where to find us. The sun may be hung at the top of its arc, but our shadows are streaming behind us. And if it's a curse, it could be worse. And if it's the sight, it's a beautiful night. We all learn how to move through the dark. We follow the infrared glow of warm-blooded ghosts that have stolen our hearts and show us which way we should go. And if it's not fair, we don't despair. Even if there's no light, it's a beautiful night. This is how we try to look on the bright side. It can be hard to see in the dark, but we can sit still and be patient. Our vision adapts as we practice the arts of music and echolocation. And if it's a gift, we can't resist. And if it's not fair, we don't if it's a curse, it could be worse. Yeah, it's all right. It's a beautiful night.
It's a beautiful song. I think Sadie found it.
Yeah. When I got the video from them, I was like, what? You handsome devil, you, Jeff.
I saw it in person a few days ago in New York. I forgot to ask him if it has a name.
All right. Yeah, Charming Disaster knocks it out of the park again.
And actually, like, again, it's there were a lot of I think that your book is very reflective, and I also think that it must have been very, very cold. So does cold help you like reflect more? I feel like when I'm cold, I just have a mantra of me repeating like, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold. So
no, I think it was the isolation that made me reflect so much. I mean, I had a lot of downtime. So what was I going to do? Write in my journal. So I wrote a lot. I wrote everything.
Yeah, that's the one thing I always wonder when books like this come out. It was like, how did you remember all those details? And yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But you know, it must not have been the most comfortable of places to hang out being reflective. I mean, it's cold and your feet are cold, and like, I know I keep harping on this, but that was my main thought while I was reading your book, is like, she had to have been cold.
No, a lot of people say that, you know, nights we had to be in our tent in the sleeping bags by 6 when the sun went down. So that was cold. That was really cold. But the day wasn't that cold. The sun is hot there. It's reflected off the snow. And that, you know, so that wasn't bad. Yeah.
At one point you're shivering in your sleeping bag, and the next minute the guys are like sun tanning on the side of the mountain.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Exactly.
You know, Lady Paws always tells me that the sun is hotter because you're closer to it on the mountain. And I feel like the physics of that is wrong.
Probably the reflection, right?
Yeah. It reflects on that white snow that's everywhere.
Yeah. Now, this took place quite a while ago, and so my question too is, you know, you were talking about how you guys are thinking about going back and etc. Climate-wise, how have things changed? I mean, I imagine it's not the same.
Well, I haven't been back. When I see pictures, because I was on the Nepal side and the Tibetan side.
Yeah.
So I mostly see pictures of Nepal in the news. It definitely looks like a lot less snow. And I think that's all been documented, that the glaciers are melting and there's less snow. Even in the season that we were there, the snow melted quite a bit while we were on the glacier. So I mentioned in the book, like, we had to move the tent because, you know, we started out sleeping on nice snow crust, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's rocky and lumpy and there's water everywhere. Yeah. So even in a season, you know, stuff melts.
Karen's going to ask you to tell a story that you might not want to tell. She's asking, what about the pee bottle?
Oh, this is a very peculiar question, Karen. We're all about this. Body functions are a thing on this show.
Yeah.
I know. I thought, what are the peculiars going to ask? What's peculiar that they could talk about? And I had one interview where the person mentioned she used the word scatological stuff in my book.
Yeah, scatological. We're about that.
And a lot of bodily functions in my book.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Diarrhea, periods, and the pee bottle story, which was, now they have really fancy gizmos for women to pee in the wilderness. They have funnels. They have these things where you can stand up and pee. But back then they didn't. And in the beginning, I was going out in the middle of the night while the guys were all using pee bottles. And that wasn't fair because it's freezing in the middle of the night.
Yes.
That was cold. That was
I would worry that your pee would just literally just get scared and be like, no, not coming out.
Well, even when I figured the pee bottle out in the tent, it was frozen by morning.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
So that was
Did you have to make modifications?
No, I just had to find like a wide enough bottle and be able to do it with a guy sleeping nearby and crouched in the corner of the tent, which is, I guess, what all mountaineers do. But like I said, those days, I had to figure some stuff out.
In our last show, Bethany Brookshire was talking about fossilized dinosaur farts in amber. So, I mean, you know, it's all good.
I watched that. That was funny.
Oh, I guess, yeah, you can really see the MD side of you coming out, how you're like, it's just bodily fluids.
It's no big deal.
That was the other reason I included all that stuff, because I thought, if an MD can't do it, who can do it? I'm going to write about everything bodily.
That's right.
Because people want to know that stuff.
Well,
so I'm just going to write about it.
I have those questions.
So Sharon asked, were you the only woman on the climb? And I guess you can kind of talk about what was the culture like on the mountain at the time, and how many women were around.
Yeah, so I was the only woman. And because we were on the east face, which is very remote, and I mentioned had only been climbed once before us, we saw no other Westerners for the months that we were there. So I also mentioned, like, it was a long trip versus what you see now. And all those lines, no, we didn't see anyone. So I think that's also why I wrote a lot, because the guys would be doing guy things. And I would have to go to the tent and listen. Davey already mentioned Joni Mitchell to me. Listen to Joni Mitchell and write in my journal and all that stuff. I did miss being able to talk to women friends. You
did have some. There was another woman on the team who started with you, right? A publicist or someone who started with you, at least. Yeah.
So we had a support team, and the idea was they helped us with logistics, and that they would come with us to base camp and then go home. But because of the storms, they never made it to base camp.
Got it.
So yeah, Wendy Davis was with us in the beginning of the trip. So yeah.
Then not.
And I just was emailing with her this morning. So yeah, we're all kind of still connected.
And, you know, the yaks didn't even go. So even if there was female yaks, it wouldn't help, right? Yaks, yakety yak, they did talk back. They quit.
Yeah, that shocked us. We were just like, what? The yaks can't go up the mountain? They can't go over this pass to get us to base camp? Don't they live here? Why didn't we hire yaks? It was puzzling.
Yeah, you might as well have gotten some camels or something at that point, right?
There was an earlier question I want to make sure we go back to. Cynthia asked, Mimi, what Everest would you like to climb today, either physically or spiritually? So do you have an Everest in your future that you're trying to climb?
Nice.
I think that this was an Everest.
Yes, that's true.
You just said how much of my heart and soul I poured into this and how personal it got. And then going out to talk about it and people seeing those parts of you. So, yeah, just my writing now. I mean, you're a writer, Brandy. You know, writing can be spiritual. I'm writing poetry now, so that it calls on a different part of the brain.
It does. A lot of my writing, and I've always openly admitted this to the Peculiars, involves me lying on my floor and crying. So that's just part of the process, really. I'm on book tour right now, which is its own kind of Everest, as you point out, right? It's not just, I mean, there's the talking about the book, but there's also just the physicality of going places and finding out that nothing's maybe arranged right. Like, I went to an event and there wasn't a bookseller. Like, that fell through the cracks somewhere.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's a whole world.
Yeah. Riley from our last show, like, turned up and there was no hotel room. I mean, yeah.
Well, Karen Debonis, who's been so nice to comment, is in my writing group. There are 4 of us. We critique each other, and we have since the beginning of me working on this book. And the name of our group is Writer's Tears.
Oh, that is my favorite kind of whiskey.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
it's after the whiskey and the fact that we cry a lot.
Yes, yeah. I keep a Writer's Tears bottle in my office, and it's so Lady Paws, my partner Lady Paws, also known as Mark. Lady Paws, that's how he stops me from writing. If I've been writing for too long, he just comes in and he pours some out of the writer's tears and just sort of like, it's like, uses it, holds it under my nose, kind of like, come on, Brandy. Leave the computer.
That's good. You got to have those kind of support systems in life.
We have a tradition here on the show, Mimi, and it is a very important tradition. Our beloved Davey, who keeps this group together in so many ways and who is amazing in his own right and deeply talented, also writes the author quiz. So I want to make sure that we don't that we leave plenty of time for that. So Davey, would you like to take it away?
Sure, I'd love to take it away. Me and Mimi were talking a little bit about this before the show started, and I think she maybe peppered in a few ringers in the audience to help her out with the quiz.
Uh-oh.
So peculiars.
Yeah, I said I'm afraid of the quiz, so please
peculiars,
sign on and help me out.
Yeah, you're all involved. It's a team effort here. Everybody has to make it to the top of this mountain. So I had some ideas. We mentioned we were talking about Joni Mitchell. I thought maybe a Joni Mitchell quiz, but I decided to get a little weirder with it. And there was something in the book, some of the people you met along the way had some interesting perspectives. And one of them you met along the way was a fruitarian who, as someone who only eats fruit and not the greatest diet for you. And, I'm raising a 3-year-old right now, and I think every 3-year-old wishes they were a fruitarian. I think it's pretty much, fruit is king in the house. And so it made me think, what else is out there? What other insane, wacky diets are out there like fruitarians? And hopefully there's no fruitarians in the audience that I'm offending by this. So the quiz this week is called Pass the Fruit. So we'll start question number 1 of 3. What is the name of the diet based on meal replacement in the form of a nutrient-rich dessert eaten 6 times a day and an approximately 300-calorie dinner in the evening? Are we talking about A, the cookie diet, B, the brownie diet, or C, the muffin diet?
I need to know more about this diet.
Yeah, imagine it's just all these nutrients and amino acids and things packed in this dessert recipe, and then that's what you eat 6 times a day. And then you get a small little dinner.
Okay, peculiars. I'm tempted to go with A, the cookie diet, but I want to hear from all of you. I remember in residency, someone bringing these big cookies in, and that was like her lunch. Like she would order these special cookies with nutrients.
We're gonna wait for them. We're gonna wait for their answers to filter in. Another thing in the book is not only the fruitarian, but also you talk so much about your life, keeping kosher, and sometimes you were doing it, sometimes you weren't, and the way you went through life with food. So food played a big role.
Yeah.
In the book.
Okay, everyone is saying C. Everyone is saying C.
What's C again? Muffin diet? The muffin
diet, yeah.
I want it to be brownie.
Yeah.
So I'm
and Karen
you
said
wanted
B.
to be brownie, and Karen said brownie. I think most people said C.
You get the final answer.
Is that your way of saying go with my gut in the cookie diet?
She's analyzing you, Davey.
I'm going to go with my gut, the cookie diet.
The answer is yes, the cookie diet. Yes. And if you could see the photo there, what was it? It was, I forget the guy's name. Hang on, I have it pulled up here. It was Siegel's or something like that. Yeah, Siegel's Smart. Siegel's cookie diet. Yeah, Dr. Siegel's cookie diet. Yeah.
Dr. Siegel's cookie diet.
It did not last long. It was,
It was there in the 80s. A resident I trained with was eating those cookies.
That's crazy.
I did think the muffin diet was fun because I already have the tagline for it. If anyone wants to go in on this with me, it's eat the muffin, lose the muffin top.
Is that like leave the gun, take the cannoli?
Yeah. All right, question number 2. Who you are somewhat. Hang on, I definitely have a typo here.
If you
are someone who prefers a diet called flexitarianism, it means you do what? A, you exercise while you were eating to create a caloric deficit.
What?
B, you mainly eat plant foods but occasionally include meat. Or C, you eat the same foods all week but are flexible with the seasonings and sauces to make it feel like a different meal. So what do you think a flexitarian is?
I admire your made-up answers, Davey, but I'm pretty sure it's B.
We got a lot of B's in the chat. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
But like eating a mostly vegetarian diet with some meat, isn't that just eating food? Isn't that just food?
Well, now it's called plant-based or.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I like the first one. I want to imagine someone on a treadmill like.
The answer is yes. You are all right. It is B, mainly eating plant foods, but occasionally including meat. All right, question number 3. This fad diet from the 1920s was promoted by silent film star Nita Naldi. We all remember her, of course.
Of course.
Photographed on the right. And included eating one specific protein and one specific fruit with the idea that the protein would provide strength, the fruit, sugar, and energy, and the acid from the fruit would destroy any fat from the meat. What was the combination recommended? Was it A, steak and peaches diet, B, venison and lemons diet, or C, lamb chop and pineapples diet?
Okay.
Well,
gosh, I'm leaning towards C, but I want to hear from the peculiar. What?
So I'm just sitting here wondering how common venison was for 1920s.
All of these diets that have been the correct answers are things that were like actually promoted, actually like out there. I can't say they're at all healthy for you, but I mean the flex diet probably is.
That's just food.
Yeah, that's just someone who likes salads. So a couple of C's it looks like. I don't know exactly where we leave off, but I think Isaac guessed C. Jackie.
I C also because pineapple enzymes are like everyone likes to talk about pineapple enzymes.
That's true.
And though lamb chops are so expensive now, but maybe they weren't in the 20s.
All right, she's going with C. Oh, Brandy, go ahead.
No.
Okay, and the answer is yes, 3. I think you're 3 for 3 on the quiz. It's C. And you know what? After looking at this photo, I gotta say this looks pretty good. I might have to make some lamb chops and grilled pineapple for dinner tonight.
It does look pretty good, I have to say. Pineapple is a surprisingly good fruit warm. They're not all, not all of them, but that's a good one.
Yeah. So your doctor may not, your nutritionist and doctor might not recommend these diets if you're going to try to climb Everest, but they are out there. They are out there.
That would be hard.
Sharon said, my grandmother had some weird diet book called Martinis and Whipped Cream.
Ooh.
There was one I found that was eggs and wine. It was the egg and wine diet. And by the end of the day, you polished off an entire bottle of wine and ate way too many eggs.
Well, you couldn't do that now. You'd go broke.
Yeah.
Except in my house.
My friend and I in high school went on a toast diet or bread. You had to eat 8 pieces of bread a day.
What? That doesn't sound like a diet.
Pretty good. No, I know. But if that's all you're eating.
That sounds like me not on a diet. That's the opposite of Brandy's diet.
Okay, that was in terms of peculiar, my dog's diabetes alert going off. So I just
okay.
She just got diabetes. So.
Oh no.
Poor girl.
Is she an elder dog? Is she a?
She's 11.
Okay, because we're very big on animals here. We've got Davey's got Kenobi, and Kenobi is 8.
Yeah, Jay's gonna turn 8 in like a week. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kenobi's 8. It's his eldest child.
It really is.
I've been over before, and he is definitely one of the children in the household.
Yeah. I would say your cats hold a similar place in your household too.
My cats are not really children. They're more like small despots that rule my life. I'm not. Is that the same thing as children? Maybe it is. I don't know.
So Mimi, speaking of children, so if your children were to come to you and say, "Mom, we're thinking about going for Everest," or people come to you today and go, "Do you have any advice for climbing Everest?" Like, what would you tell people today, or your children?
Well, the mountain just isn't so appealing right now with with all the long lines and the fact that it's a bucket list item.
Yeah.
But just going to climb mountains, I would say go for it. Enjoy the journey, not just the getting to the top destination. Yeah, it's fun to train and just be in that fresh air. It's like the old Boy Scout saying, be prepared. There's a lot to be prepared, and a lot to do to be prepared. You can't just go out and wing it.
No, I guess you can't. And, I do think that it requires a certain amount of concentration and focus, and it's almost meditative in a sense, like in terms of, when people talk about being present, you're present on the mountain, aren't you?
Yeah, I think that's the appeal. I mean, the appeal to everyone on our team was that you're very, very present. Like the mountain just demands that of you. Mm-hmm. And also realizing that you're at the whim of nature and
yaks
and yaks, and you have to respect that. So that makes you be more present. And actually today, in today's world, with technology and how we're connected and we're addicted, the one thing I think that's great for mental health is everyone tries to get outside and get some fresh air as much as possible. And with our schedules and stuff, you have to actually think, is that a priority? I think that should be a priority for all of us, for our mental health, and to disconnect a little.
Yeah.
Not just go outside and be on the podcast, but like actually walk and be present. That's the thing about trekking that was so great. Especially in Nepal, when I went alone, when I was 22, it's just one foot in front of the other, right? You have to be with yourself. You have to be with nature. You have to be present. And we can make those opportunities just going out for a walk, but it's how we do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. One foot in front of the other is a way I think all of us need to probably live our lives at the moment, because it can be really overwhelming right now. Mm-hmm. So for all of you listening and for all of you watching, please pick up Memi's book. You can get it from us. You can get it from your favorite indie publisher. I won't even yell at you if you get it from Amazon, but do pick it up, read it. It is a wonderful book. It's wonderful in many ways. It's extremely informative and very reflective. And I think it's the perfect book for the Peculiar Book Club. So thank you for being with us, Mimi. And thank you, Davey, for being here too. It's good to have everybody.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a huge thrill.
It's awesome.
Thank you all my friends who signed on, and the Peculiars.
And of course, you now have forever a drink cocktail specifically for your book, which is always good.
And it matches.
Climbing mountains right there. So again, everybody, please join us again next time at a place where if you're weird, you're family.
You got the blue bottle blues when you wake up in the night. Don't make a big mistake, 'cause you can never make it right. When you reach out for the vial, feel the ridges in the glass. It's a matter of survival, baby. Better watch your back. There is no antidote. There is no